All right, Shalom, Malcolm starts this lesson by doing give all praise and all glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bashim Kakwadash. The bonus our apostles and elders agree in those one that taught us his truth and Ruel. Peace and blessing to the sincere, all keeps us expressing his truth. And our truth and sincerity around the four corners of the earth, diligently. Bless you, Shalom. Okay, this is your brother Ura Ariel, the great Moston Miami Cap. Come back to the spirit part of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai and making up the lesson. Okay, this lesson, okay, I'm gonna be going into the title of the lesson is going to be he's going to try to he's going to try and not succeed. Okay, and by that I'm going to Esau Edom. Okay, he's gonna try and in his mind fight Yahweh Shai and not succeed. Alright, that's why this devil done try to make a space force. Alright, because he understands that there's a greater threat that's coming to his kingdom. Okay, Esau gotta understand that, all right, the Lord allowed you to rule for a certain amount of time. All right, the Lord allowed you to have rulership for a certain amount of time, and now it's your time for you to get out of rulership, man. All right, Lord said, Scripture said that, I set it up king and I remove kings. All right, so you understand that, the Lord set you up, and He's gonna be the one to remove you. All right, seeing the amount of wickedness that took place on the face of the earth, the amount of unjust, okay, how He treated the nation of Israel, okay, when it came to slavery and till now, okay, Lord got a bone to pick with you. But, in your mind, because as you can see, World War III is clearly evident, okay, as when we can clearly see that, okay, and as we see those things, we understand that Esau is going to try to, fight, Yahweh Shemel Shai. He's going to also try to fight the Lord. Okay, because they're gonna put all their differences aside, because you understand there was this president that said that, man, what if we all put our differences aside, okay, to fight, one common enemy. All right, and they understand that there's a greater power. All right, but it's their pride that they think that they would have a chance at fighting the Lord. You understand, that's coming from a whole different realm. It's coming from the spiritual realm. Okay, so as soon as Yahweh shall crack the clouds, no matter where you are going to feel His presence. That's how strong the Lord is. Okay, he doesn't need to. All right, but that's just how the movie was made, man. Movies played. Okay, as soon as He cracked the clouds, you're just gonna feel His presence, man. All right, and that's what's gonna make a lot of these fighter jet pilots and all these military men scared, because that's gonna be something that they never experienced before. Okay, when you get goosebumps, all right, here, Lord kind of give you like a little, a little sprinkle of what may happen, but the Lord's gonna make it, the worst goosebumps that a lot of people have ever done felt, man. Because you gotta understand, you are fighting the creator, the creator of the whole earth. All right, and in your mind, because you're prideful, you think that just because you have all these weapons and all these things that you're gonna be able to put up a fight against the Lord, and seeing that you guys trying to chase down the chariots and all these things, and how these pilots done got third-degree burns, not even being close to the chariot, but being in that same vicinity. Okay, they done got cancerous burns, and these are things that you can literally search up. All right, these are things that are not just I'm just saying out of my mouth. No, man, you can search these things up of how these fighter jet pilots are getting these burns. All right, and how trying to follow the chariots, and how it defies the laws of physics. All right, and there was a video that they recorded a chariot going straight, and then it just made a total 90-degree left turn. Okay, just without even stopping, just quickly turn. All right, and when you try to compare that to the jets and the aircraft that they have, that's physically impossible. All right, and men of Jeremiah has been saying, okay, that the chariots been here. All right, the chariots been here for years now. All right, everybody was saying that we was conspiracy theorists and all these things, but now The government has openly, you can literally search these things up. The government has literally openly said, all right, that they are here, man. Okay, so that's why he's trying to make all these other tools and all these other weapons to try to fight the Lord. Okay, he's going to try, but he's not going to succeed. All right, but but the Lord going to allow him to think that in his mind, all right, that he has a chance to, be at, war with, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, and he's going to destroy him, man. Okay, but, I had a couple of precepts lined up. Low was less than this edifying. It's Revelation chapter 12 in verse 7, and it says, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels. All right, man, that dragon going into Esau, Edom. All right, they're going to try to fight Michael and our angels, man. All right, in the heavens. When they put that in, in their movies, I watched the movie Independence Day, and you see that big fathership came in and then the many chariots. Okay? That's how, you got to understand that Esau is the fact that, Lord's chariot is going to cover the whole earth. All right, so you already lost the battle in that in itself, man. Okay? That's already, a losing factor already, man. Okay? It says, and prevail not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And that great dragon was cast out, the old serpent, right, man? Because it's that same serpent. It's like it's that same old serpent from the beginning, man. All right, in Genesis. Okay, and it says called the devil, called Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And that's right, man, showing you that you are not going to see, you are not going to win. All right, there is no victory at the end of your story, because Esau, when it comes to these war movies and how he likes to put a happy ending that the American pride succeeded and all these things, Esau just like to give you a sense of hope. Okay, but in all reality, that's not going to be the case. Okay, because his words can't go against the scriptures. Right, Lord said that his words are faithful and true. So these things are going to happen. Esau's not going to succeed. All right, because I was going through the breakdown of Revelation, and I was going, and I read upon this precept. Like Esau's going to try, but he's not going to succeed. But that's ultimately because of how the Lord wanted to play the movie. Okay, the Lord wants to give Esau the illusion that he's going to be able to have a chance at beating him, but that's just going to show the glory in the Lord and really just take Esau down. Okay, because that's going to show the power of Yahweh Shai. The Lord really going to show his power come World War III. All right, all the things that the scriptures speak about that are coming. The Lord is really going to show his power, man. All right. Verse 10, and it says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power and the power of his Amashiach. For our cruising of thy brethren is cast down, which accursed them before our Most High, before the Lord day and night. That's right, man. The accuser of our brethren, Esau Edom, is cast down, which accuse who? The Israelites, man. The Israelites. Before the Lord day and night. Okay. So here's the precept, basically telling you where does Esau's end. It doesn't say that he overcame Michael and no, man. Okay, scripture say that he is cast. He's going to be cast down. All right, and continuing on, this is 2 Esdras 13 and verse 8, because you understand that these military men, these pilots, and these these jets and these bombers. Okay, they are going to be frightened. All right, they are going to be frightened because they're going to see things that they never prepared for, they never trained for. All right, and even though they never trained for it. All right, even though they're going to try and do it, even though they may not want to do it, is what I'm trying to say. All right, the Lord going to put the spirit on them to try and do it, man. Okay, this is 2 Esdras 13, verse 8, and it says, and after this, behold, lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid. All right, man, all these militaries that try to subdue the Lord are going to be afraid. Yet they durst fight, and that's right, man. Yet they were afraid. They still try to put up that fight. right? And it says durst, and yet they were brave enough to fight. All right, or in the definition, it's challenge. All right, pick up the courage. All right, even though they are going to be afraid, okay, they're gonna still have to. And Lord gonna put the courage in them to try and fight the Lord. All right, and that's gonna be a scary sight because Lord's gonna totally, annihilate them, man. All right, in Mortal Kombat, how they have that saying, finish him. Okay, this is Obadiah 1. It's 4, and it says, "Thou, though thou exalt thyself as an eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence I will bring thee down, saith the Lord." That's right, man. Esau, okay, his pride, okay, though he, put his nest among the stars, okay, setting up his satellites in heaven, okay, thinking that he trying to be like the Most High, right? But Lord's gonna bring you down. Okay, Lord gonna bring you down out of that state of pride, man. Okay, you are gonna try to fight the Lord, and you are not going to succeed. Okay, but that's just the part of the movie that Esau just gonna have to be in, man. All right, he done ruled the earth wickedly. All right, treated the nation of Israel terribly. All right, and the Lord saw all of that. Okay, and he remembered all of that. Okay, so now when he comes and you are in this World War III, the Lord's gonna put belt to ass, man. And that's only rightfully so, because that's what the men of the Lord are sighing and crying and hoping for, man, for the downfall of Esau Edom. Okay, so low one's lesson is edifying. Okay, with that, I do give our praise and our glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash, the Morning Star Apostles, and others who great meals, and that taught us his truth and that rule well. Peace and blessing to the sincere Akims. With that, I do want to say Shalom.